missing piece in this is, we know there have been several courses and several iterations and initiatives around leadership management and governance, and it's extremely important. I find that we need to also look at, when do we introduce that? Because you'll see a lot of times that we introduce it at such a later stage. Okay, now very specific to the African context, I think it's introduced at such a later stage when one is, slightly established or set in their ways, and so it's quite difficult to have that mind shift. So, and I think it's figuring out what is that sweet spot when you can influence a mind shift, when you can introduce other ways of looking at leadership, right? I will dare say that, I think in some of our countries, let's say our parliamentarians, our senators have learned from what they've seen before, right? So we get the same type of leaders that are put out into our society. But then if you have this sort of mind shift in the way we look at leadership, even looking at leadership in terms of a devolved function. So while the hierarchy might be there, but how do you, shall we say, democratize leadership? And how do you help leaders build the teams that they need to deliver on whatever their goals are, right? So instead of forcing a leader to do 5,000 things, maybe they can only do two. Great, they can do those two things. What team do they need around them to do the other million things that they need to do? So I think we also need some creativity in how we do this. I really like what Robert said about not thinking that the public health person is needed in the public health space. You might need, I don't know, an architect in the public health space, but it's that diversity of thought as well that's needed for us to just have dynamic leaders. I get really bored when I go to some of these meetings and conferences where you can fall asleep and follow the program because there'll be a declaration, there'll be and we approve this, and on behalf of, and then there's a declaration. Nothing has been said. So it's just, how do we, I don't know. I want us to have a dynamic type. I want us to have dynamic leaders. That for me, I think will really, really change a lot of our social sectors on this continent.